The full court of the Federal Court of Australia is now in session. Please be seated.
Associate, please call the welcome.
Welcome of the Honourable Justice Wheatley.
Welcome to everyone here this morning. Chief Justice Mortimer has asked me to convey her sincere regrets at her inability to be here. I am pleased to preside at this very important ceremonial sitting to welcome the Honourable Justice Amelia Wheatley to the Federal Court of Australia. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders. I would also like to acknowledge the Honourable Susan Kiefel AC KC, former Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia, the Honourable Chief Justice Sir Gibuma Gibbs Salika, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Papua New Guinea, and Lady Rosika Salika, the Honourable Deborah Mullins, AO, President of the Court of Appeal, Supreme Court of Queensland, and fellow Justices of the Court of Appeal of Queensland, present and former Justices of the Federal Court of Australia, present and former Justices and Judges of the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia, present and former Justices of the Supreme Court of Queensland, Chief Justice Brian Devereux, and present and former Judges of the District Court of Queensland, members of the Administrative Review Tribunal, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. There are others who could not be here today who have sent their apologies. In particular, I note apologies from our Queensland colleague, Justice Darryl Rangier, who is sitting in court interstate today, Justice Edelman of the High Court of Australia, Chief Justice Boscool and Justice Martin of the Supreme Court of Queensland, and the Attorney General, Mr. Mark Dreyfus, KC. I would like to give an especially warm welcome to members of Justice Wheatley's family, in particular her husband Darryl, her son Alexander, her mother Mrs. Cheryl Hewitt, and the members of her family who have travelled here from Melbourne. I would also like to welcome Her Honour's invited friends and colleagues to the ceremony today. This is a very important event in Her Honour's life, and one which no doubt has been made possible by ongoing support and encouragement from Her Honour's family and friends. Justice Wheatley was formally sworn in as a judge of this court on 9 January 2025 by Chief Justice Mortimer. Today is an opportunity for all of us to publicly recognise the significance of Her Honour's judicial appointment to this court. Justice Wheatley, on behalf of the judges, registrars and all the staff of the Federal Court of Australia, I congratulate you on your appointment. I'm confident that you will serve the Australian community with distinction and dedication. I would like now to invite Mr. Chris Stager, Senior Executive Lawyer, Australian Government Solicitor, representing the Attorney General for the Commonwealth, to address the court.
Thank you, Your Honour. May it please the court. I would also like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet and to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I also extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. It is a great privilege to be here today to congratulate Your Honour on your appointment as a Justice of the Federal Court of Australia. The Attorney General, the Honourable Mark Dreyfus, KC MP, regrets that he cannot be here to share this occasion with you today. He has, however, asked that I convey the government's sincere appreciation for Your Honour's willingness to serve as a judge of this court, and the government extends its best wishes for your career on the bench. Your Honour's appointment is another success in a diverse and eminent career. That so many of your colleagues from the judiciary and the legal profession are here today is a testament to the high regard in which your colleagues hold Your Honour. May I particularly acknowledge the Honourable Susan Kiefel AC, KC, former Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia, the Chief Justice Sir Gabuma Gibbs Salika, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Papua New Guinea, and his spouse, Lady Razika Salika, the Honourable Justice Deborah Mullins AO, President of the Court of Appeal of the Supreme Court of Queensland, the Honourable Chief Judge Brian Devereux SC, Chief Judge of the District Court of Queensland, other current and former members of the judiciary, fellow speakers and members of the legal profession. May I also acknowledge the presence of Your Honour's family who proudly share this occasion with you. Your husband Darryl is here today with your son Alexander. We're also joined by your mother Cheryl and a number of your aunts, uncles and cousins. Time does not permit a full exposition of Your Honour's achievements and the contributions that you have made to the law. Therefore, today I will focus on some key achievements that mark your distinguished career. Your Honour, an only child, grew up in Victoria and moved to Mackay, Queensland in your teenage years. As your family, friends and colleagues have remarked, your intended destination of a career in the law diverted along the way. I am told that your love of animals led you to undertake work experience in a vet clinic during high school. Apparently, it was kindly suggested that perhaps another vocation might be suitable, given your propensity for spirited debate, no matter what the topic. Your love of animals continues to this day, and I understand that your Italian greyhound would attest to this. Another step in the road, you completed a Bachelor of Commerce in Accounting at James Cook University in Townsville in 1994, where you met your husband Darryl. During your university years and courtship, your husband fondly recalls many nights spent poring over legal texts to all hours, along with long road trips from Mackay to the James Cook University Law Library in Townsville, followed by countless hours at the photocopier copying cases for legal research. I understand that it was your father, Mr. Lawrence W. Hewitt, a solicitor, who inspired your interest in a legal career. Your Honour graduated from the Queensland University of Technology with a Bachelor of Laws with honours in 1998, while being articled to your father. In 1999, Your Honour obtained a position, first as a research assistant, and then as associate to the late Justice Cooper in the Federal Court, which necessitated a move to Brisbane. I am told by your family, friends and colleagues that Justice Cooper had a profound influence on Your Honour's formative years in the law. I understand that you extended your position in order to remain until the determination of the Lardial People's Case, 2004 FCA 298, which was the first native title claim over the sea. At the end of your tenure, His Honour gifted you a set of robes that had once belonged to his associate while he sat as a judge of the Supreme Court of the ACT. He remarked that you would need them when you went to the bar. And after working as a solicitor at Freehills from 2001 to 2004, I'm told by your colleagues that the robes had their first airing in a Brisbane court when you went to the bar in 2005, and that you wore these robes until you took silk in 2019. No doubt your time with Justice Cooper gave you insight into the workings of the Federal Court. Your Honour had a commercial practice while at the bar and also appeared extensively in administrative review, taxation and migration matters. Notably, you appeared for the Minister in Minister for Immigration and Citizenship and Lee, 2013 249 Commonwealth Law Reports 332, led by the now Honourable Justice Geoffrey Kennett and then Justin Gleeson SC, when the matter was heard in the High Court. The case changed the landscape for the law on the ground of unreasonableness in administrative review. Contributing broadly to the profession, Your Honour was appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court of Nauru in 2022, where you spent time hearing and determining migration matters. Additionally, you have served on a number of Bar Association of Queensland and Law Council of Australia committees spanning migration, insolvency and restructuring, taxation, which you later chaired, professional conduct, and South Pacific region legal education. Since 2013, Your Honour has also served as an ethics counsellor and a Master Examiner of Ethics for the Bar Practice course. It is a great pleasure to recognise a few of Your Honour's personal qualities that have culminated in your appointment to this court. Throughout your career, Your Honour has been known for possessing a sharp intellect and a formidable work ethic. Your colleagues, friends and family have described you as fearless, confident, persistent, resolute, steadfast, unwavering, and doggedly determined, reflecting that your relentless dedication and tenacity that you apply to your work cannot be overstated. You have a keen ability to drill to the nub of any issue and arrive at a solution. As a staunch believer in the collegiality of the profession, I understand that this often involved debates with new members of the bar and pupils, whom you always made time for to talk through their concerns. I'm told that there are a few stories that better illustrate these personal qualities than your approach to the gunshot crossing on the old telegraph track on the way to Cape York during a family adventure. Others along the track were trying to find an easier crossing and were getting stuck. And armed only with a Jeep Wrangler, when you reached the most challenging water crossing, Your Honour declared that you would like to take the most direct route across, despite it being more or less a vertical descent. With your husband on foot and equipped with a two-way radio and your son Alex in the co-pilot seat, you set off on a hair-raising minute or two. Your Honour made it across to great applause and loud cheers from the crowd that had gathered to witness such a feat. Your interests and hobbies include cars, motorbikes, four-wheel driving, and camping and fishing with friends. I'm told that you and your husband own Ducati motorcycles, including a Ducati 750 Supersport, and rode them several times from Mackay to the annual superbike race at Phillip Island. Later, motorbiking was replaced by four-wheel driving, during which Your Honour applies the same analytical approach to the inevitable mechanical problems faced along the way, as you do to the legal issues you address in your profession. Your Honour enjoys travel and the not-to-be-missed Sunday movie nights with your husband and son. I understand that Your Honour also has a collection of pens, including a lucky Von Graff pen gifted by the late Justice Cooper, which accompanied you on every court appearance. Your Honour's appointment to this court acknowledges your dedication to the law and accomplishments in the legal profession. Your Honour takes this judicial office with the very best wishes of the Australian legal profession, and it is trusted that you will approach this role with the exceptional dedication to the law you have shown throughout your career. On behalf of the Australian Government and the Australian people, I extend to you my sincere congratulations and welcome you to the Federal Court of Australia. May it please the Court.
Thank you, Mr. Stager. I'd now like to invite Ms. Catherine Hayworth-Smith, KC, President of the Australian Bar Association and President of the Queensland Bar Association, and representing the Australian Bar Association to address the Court.
May it please the Court. It is a great pleasure to speak on behalf of the Australian Bar Association and the Bar Association of Queensland and their members at this welcome ceremony for Your Honour, Justice Wheatley. The President of the Australian Bar Association, Ms. Regine Annesley, KC, gives her apologies for not being able to be present today. Justice Wheatley, I am pleased to welcome you, your immediate and extended family, and your friends, many of whom stand with me at this ceremony. Your Honour's start in the law was in Mackay as an articled clerk with your father, Lawrence W. Hewitt. While you completed your Bachelor of Laws at the Queensland University of Technology, the good sense and well-rounded experience of a country practitioner has never left you. Your Honour was the associate to the late and much respected Justice Cooper, having the good fortune of an extended time in that role to see out the lengthy hearings of the Lardell Peoples case. After 4 years as a solicitor, Your Honour was called to the bar in 2005. It was not enough for Your Honour to develop a successful junior practice in public law. Your Honour completed a Master of Laws, achieving the Dean's Commendation in 2008. While Your Honour focused initially on judicial review of migration decisions, your practice quickly expanded to taxation and revenue law. You took silk in 2018. All of this is very much on the record. It speaks, of course, to Your Honour's industry and diligence. Similarly well known are Your Honour's scholarship, intellectual rigour, and the capacity for abstraction, so desirable in a barrister, turning their mind to Your Honour's areas of practice. It is the history for which Your Honour might be less well known, which gives the bar such great confidence in your elevation. It is in Your Honour's compassion towards animals. It is in the laughter that Your Honour brings to any social occasion. The affected awkwardness that Your Honour sometimes deploys to make those around you comfortable in your and others' presence. It is that Your Honour is a sailor, used to navigating rough seas. It is in your commitment to legal education and the rule of law. I might dwell on these last two. Your Honour has spent many hours on your feet in this court and in the High Court, where you have appeared in matters including Minister for Immigration and Citizenship and Lee, the landmark case on the concept of unreasonableness in administrative law. Your expertise in migration law was recognised when, in 2022, you were appointed as a non-residential judge in Nauru, delivering judgments which greatly assisted to clear a backlog of refugee appeals. In undertaking that responsibility, Your Honour's work was performed in a challenging environment. Your courtroom was a converted shipping container in a country sitting aside the equator. Nevertheless, Your Honour's work was vitally important to the litigants before you, and you met those physical challenges head-on with good humour. You have advanced the legal education and the profession further afield in the South Pacific. In fact, Your Honour's phlegmatic disposition came to the fore when teaching advocacy in Honiara in the Solomon Islands 2 years ago. We are told that late one night there was an earthquake of sufficient force to cause damage to the hotel. Brady, Casey, and Crowley were on the same mission and made their way with fearful and sensible expedition to the hotel's courtyard with the other guests. Your Honour was not to be found. Text messages went unanswered. There was a concern of a tsunami and the urgent need to head for the hills. Still no Amelia, as Your Honour was then known. Eventually, the all clear was given, and your colleagues assumed that you had just slept through the whole thing. Perhaps they thought, as an experienced sailor, you were used to your bed lurching about at night. The next morning, you admitted that while you had been asleep, the shaking had indeed awoken you, but you had simply rolled over and gone back to sleep. Your Honour's calm and unflappable nature and cool-headedness in the face of potential catastrophe will be a superb asset on the bench of this honourable court. In addition to Your Honour's commitment to the South Pacific, the Association is particularly grateful for the many hours you have given as a presenter of seminars, representing the Association in academic commitments, as an author of Hearsay, and of submissions to government, as a member of its Migration Law Committee and as chair of the Taxation Law Committee. On behalf of the Association and its members and the Australian Bar Association, I offer our congratulations and our thanks that Your Honour has chosen to take up this important public service. We wish you the very best for your time on the bench. May it please the Court.
Thank you, Ms. Hayworth-Smith. I'd now like to invite Ms. Genevieve Dee, President of the Queensland Law Society and representing the Law Council of Australia, to address the Court.
May it please the Court. I echo the acknowledgements made of the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Yagara and Turrbal peoples. I pay deep respect to their elders of this place, past and present, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. I also acknowledge Justice Collier, Mr. Steger representing the Attorney General, Catherine Hayworth-Smith KC, President of the Bar Association of Queensland, all judicial officers, dignitaries, colleagues, and most of all Your Honour and Your Honour's family and friends. It is a great pleasure to welcome Your Honour's appointment on behalf of the Law Council of Australia and the Queensland Law Society. Your appointment to the Court has been considered somewhat inevitable by those who know and have worked with Your Honour, given Your Honour's achievements and the dedication to service Your Honour has displayed throughout your career. Even as far back as 2007, in a paper titled Similar Fact Evidence in Civil Proceedings, Proof or Policy, Your Honour was weighing up how best to achieve justice through our courts. You were already showing a determination to ensure evidence is properly considered, while noting the need for a justice system that is efficient, affordable and predictable. And of course, this is not the first time Your Honour has served the community as a judge. Your Honour was a non-resident judge at the Supreme Court of Nauru. This is also not even the first time serving the people of Queensland through this court. You were an associate to Justice Cooper, and as we have heard, extended your time in his chambers to see through to its conclusion a case regarding the native title of the Ladle people. Your Honour's personal quest for legal accuracy and just outcomes without undue delay will serve those who come before you exceptionally well. As will Your Honour's renowned work ethic. I understand Your Honour likes to get an early morning start and is hard at work long before many of us even contemplate starting our day. And somehow, despite the early hour, you still manage to prioritise a walk with your beloved dog Merlin before you get to the office. I am also reliably informed that Your Honour is dedicated to the law and genuinely enjoys its nuances and intricacies. In particular, you have a passion for statutory construction and your legal dictionary is always at hand. Your Honour's immense skills and expertise have resulted in you being recognised more than once in the Doyle's Guide and across different specialties. Your Honour's love of debate and analysis of the law probably formed early through discussions around the family dinner table with your late father, who was a solicitor and for whose firm you worked as an article clerk. Outside of work, you love to be, I'm told, well, outside. Your love of boating, particularly getting out on the water with your family, is well known. And I believe you're also a fan of four-wheel driving and camping. Your Honour plans these trips with the same eye for detail that you bring to the practice of law. On behalf of the profession, what I would most like to highlight in the time I have left today are the many ways in which you have generously given back. Your Honour is an esteemed mentor who has helped shape the next generation of lawyers. Your ability and willingness to lead and teach by example and inclusion has not gone unnoticed or unappreciated by those lucky enough to be guided by Your Honour. You have also contributed to the development of policy and the law through your committee work, including as a member of the Queensland Bar Migration Law Committee and the Australian Bar Association Taxation Committee. Through the Taxation Committee, Your Honour was involved in the establishment of a legal assistance referral scheme designed to provide pro bono legal assistance to unrepresented taxpayers. Your Honour has joined a number of eminent Australian lawyers and judges who have contributed to the strong partnerships that exist between Australia and the Pacific, particularly as a non-resident judge in Nauru, as I mentioned earlier. The Law Council of Australia maintains an interest in promoting the development of legal professional bodies, the justice sector, and the rule of law in the Pacific region. Recognising that many Pacific lawyers face barriers in accessing continuing legal education training and materials, the Law Council was pleased to support Your Honour to deliver, through the Bar Association of Queensland's South Pacific Region Legal Education Committee, a civil advocacy intensive course to private and government lawyers and practitioners in the Solomon Islands in 2023. Your Honour is an insightful, skilled and dedicated advocate. Your legal knowledge and ability to remain calm, even in the most emotional and fraught matters, will be key to the outstanding contribution I'm confident you will make to the administration of justice from the bench. Your Honour, on behalf of the legal profession of Australia, I formally congratulate you on your appointment and thank you for your service to our community. May it please the Court.
Thank you, Ms Dee. I'd now like to invite Justice Wheatley to reply.
Thank you. May I also echo the acknowledgements of the traditional custodians on the land in which we meet. Justice Collier and other members of the Federal Court, Mr Chris Stager representing the Honourable Mark Dreyfus, KC MP, Attorney General for the Commonwealth, the Honourable Susan Kiefel, AC, KC, former Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia, the Honourable Deborah Mullins, President of the Court of Appeal of the Supreme Court of Queensland, and other judges of the Supreme Court, the Honourable Chief Judge Brian Devereux, SC, Chief Judge of the District Court, and other judges of the District Court, members of the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, former judges of this court, the Honourable Jeffrey Spender, KC, the Honourable John Dowsett, AM, KC, the Honourable Andrew Greenwood, the Honourable John Reeves, and Chief Justice Salika of the Supreme Court of Papua New Guinea and Lady Salika. I realise after all of the introductions that this is also an extended introduction and it will become apparent why. I am pleased to have a member of the South Pacific Judiciary present for today. As we have heard, I have had some involvement with the South Pacific, sitting on the Supreme Court in Nauru and delivering advocacy training to the legal practitioners in the Solomon Islands. It is important work. Can I please start with the thank yous? Thank you to the Attorney General for the privilege and honour to serve on this court. I am conscious and humbled by the confidence which the government has placed in me in this appointment. I am also acutely aware of the responsibilities and the obligations which go with this office. I take those, together with the extremely high standards which are exemplified in this court, very seriously, and will endeavour to the very best of my ability to maintain those standards and discharge those responsibilities. Can I also thank all of the judges in the Brisbane Registry of the Court for their warmth and welcome. More particularly, can I also thank each of them for putting up with my pestering and usually obviously answered questions. Can I extend this thanks to all in the Brisbane Registry, particularly Judicial Services Team Leader Kim Hopwood and Director of Court Services Queensland, Mr Shane Boyle, who have assisted with my move to the court. Could I also thank Mr Harrison Smith, my and Justice Longbottom's acting associate. His assistance has been invaluable. However, having been associate to Justice Roger Derrington, this is not at all surprising. Mrs Claudine Kelly, Executive Assistant to Justice Sarah Derrington, was assisting me in the first couple of weeks, which was obviously tremendous. And now, Mrs Christy Armstrong, Executive Assistant to Justice Logan, and I'm happy to report to myself now and into the future, has also been invaluable. Finally, to Judicial Registrar Smith, thank you for your support. Furthermore, with whom I've already found discussions regarding bankruptcy all too engaging. Can I please also thank each of you, Mr Stager, representing the Attorney-General, Ms Kate Herthworth-Smith, KC, President of the Bar Association and representing the Australian Bar Association, and Ms Dee, President of the Queensland Law Society and also representing the Law Council of Australia, for your very kind and generous words. I did initially worry that I had been accidentally seated in the wrong position, being that these words were meant for another. Of course, once we heard the story about gunshot, I realised it was me. Please don't take these observations the wrong way. I am appreciative for each of your words and I do gratefully accept them. However, it does bring into sharp focus what excellent advocates you each are, and perhaps more than a little poetic licence has been engaged in. I was also grateful that the word fearless was used, not reckless. My extracurricular activities sound fantastic, put in the way in which you did, and I'm wondering whether I had any time at all for work. However, I do assure you I squeezed a little in. One thank you I would like to give now, although perhaps more traditionally done at the end of such a speech, is to my family and to my friends. I would like to do so now because such unwavering love, support and encouragement must, in my view, be recognised early on. I am fortunate that my mum is here. Unfortunately, my father has passed away. Some of my extended family from Melbourne are here in Brisbane today, friends from out west, friends from Brisbane, and some are with us via the live streaming. Of course, my husband Daryl and our son Alexander, both of whom have put up with a lot over the years, are here. Thank you very much. Although, as I say that, please be assured that those words, even in this very public forum, are inadequate to properly express my gratitude to each of you. I have been fortunate in my legal career. I have worked at nearly all of the different levels available. I was an article clerk under the old article system, a judge's associate in this very court, a solicitor and a barrister. As we've heard, I served my articles with my father, who commenced practice in Melbourne. He came to the law a little later in life after working in the family road-making business. He was also a light aircraft pilot, so he had a diverse background as well. I completed my articles in Mackay with him while studying law by correspondence at QUT. As we've heard, we did have to travel to Townsville to do any legal research. This was before, please don't ask me how long before, but it was before the vast array of electronic materials and internet-based research which are now available. I would stand Daryl after our 4.5-hour drive to Townsville at the photocopier for hours and hours on end. Somehow we still seemed to tie the knot, so it couldn't have been too bad. But times have certainly changed since then in terms of research. During my articles, being in a smaller regional firm, I was fortunate to instruct and be involved with cases and barristers such as Ms. Wendy Pack SC and Mr. Dan O'Gorman SC. In undertaking my law degree by correspondence at QUT, also in my class was the now Honourable Judge Demack, who was associate at the time in the Supreme Court in Rockhampton, where she travelled from. It was in discussions with Her Honour that I gained a better understanding of what was a judge's associate. I couldn't imagine a better way to learn, experience and improve my understanding of the law. I didn't leave it to chance. So I sent letters, yes, by post, to every Supreme Court, District Court and Federal Court judge in Queensland. I wanted to be thorough. I received some lovely rejection letters. One that stood out, which everyone in this courtroom would understand, was from the Honourable Margaret White AO. However, I did receive a position with the late Justice Richard Cooper, whom I was fortunate enough, as we've heard, to stay on an extended position. The other judges of the Federal Court at that time were the Honourable Susan Kiefel AC KC, the Honourable Jeffrey Spender KC, the Honourable Douglas Drummond KC, and the Honourable John Dowsett AM KC. It was a fantastic opportunity. I'm a big believer in you get out of things what you put into them. I learned an enormous amount. At the time, the judge's executive assistant, now Mrs. Susan Picton, was very much in charge of chambers, which was excellent for me. She was of great assistance. I'm also fortunate that Ms. Picton and her husband are here today, and we have remained friends since that time. Ms. Rosalind Newbury and Ms. Dorothy White, former executive assistants to the Honourable John Dowsett AM KC and the Honourable Douglas Drummond KC, respectively, are also here today. Thank you for coming. I was also fortunate to be the associate, as we've heard, during the Lardle People's case. We heard the evidence on Mornington Island. I say we, but of course it was the judge. I was very fortunate to see counsel of such calibre. The appearances read like a who's who list. The now President Mullins, the Honourable Justice John Bond, the Honourable Justice Peter Flanagan, Acting Justice Graham Hiley AM, RFD, with Mr. Scott McLeod KC, the Honourable John Baston KC, Mr. Damien O'Brien KC, the immediate past President of the Bar Association and now Vice President of the Australian Bar Association. After my associateship, I secured a position at Free Hills, as it was then known, and it was there I met my friends and colleagues, Ms. Jane Fitzgerald, Ms. Madeline Simpson and Ms. Rachel Warren. What an amazing group of women. I continue to be ever grateful that each of you are part of my world. Thank you. I also worked there with Mr. Greg Rogers, mainly doing insolvency work, which I really enjoyed, and I learned a lot. Thank you. It was then to the bar with, as we've heard, my associate's robes. I did the bar practice course with the now Justice Sean Cooper, Deputy State Coroner Stephanie Gallagher, Mr. Patrick McCafferty KC, Mr. David DeJersey KC, Ms. Jessica McClimate KC, Mr. Shane Monks and Ms. Laura Rees, but to name a few. Going through that course with such an esteemed and supportive cohort was obviously very beneficial. At the bar, I was effectively in the same group, Chambers group, for my entire time. I say effectively because I did venture down the hall for a couple of months. I also say the same group, but there is only one full-time or full member of that group from there when I joined. Times do change. However, I was, again, fortunate in my Chambers group. Doors were always open. Such a good bunch. Or do we call a group of barristers a gaggle? I see Mr. Richard Douglas, KC, in a recent edition of Hearsay would disagree with that, preferring a term, a judgment of legal practitioners. However, I do note his passing reference to gaggle, and I must say I think it apt. Barristers are notoriously difficult to corral. It is definitely an exercise in herding cats. And once in a group, they are disorderly, and the noise and volume increases with their numbers. However, the collegiality at the bar is amazing. The Honourable Justice Treston spoke of it at her Honours swearing in the Supreme Court far more eloquently than I could ever do. However, I wholeheartedly agree with and endorse those words. It is often spoken about. However, it is not until you are at the bar and experience it do you truly understand it. In my time, I never had anyone say, "No, I'm too busy for you," or "No, I just don't want to talk to you." Every time, any time I made contact with someone at the bar to discuss something, they always made time available. I tried to emanate that in my time at the bar as I travelled through. It is a truly wonderful profession. There are so many examples I could offer. However, I think this one exemplifies the position. When I commenced, my then junior mentor, now Mr. Adrian Duffy KC, calling me back after he was at the movies one night. So it was at about 10:30 at night. About a court application I had the next morning. He could obviously hear the nerves in my voice in the message I had left. As a junior barrister, I worked with some amazing silks who were brilliant and patient with me. There was always something to learn. I thoroughly enjoyed and valued each experience and always incorporated something from each experience into my practice going forward. I was also fortunate in the type of briefs that I received. Working predominantly in public law meant there were often important questions to be resolved in those matters, and I always enjoyed being part of a matter that made law. We've heard of my involvement in the Minister for Immigration and Citizenship and Lee, what is sometimes known as the unreasonableness case. I don't like to say that my client came second in that case. I prefer to say we made law. Similarly, upon taking silk, the interesting matters continued, for which again I was grateful. Now I was working with some fantastic, exceedingly intelligent and diligent juniors. I hoped that I was able to pass on some of the things I had learnt from those great silks that I had worked with. Of course, it wasn't always easy. Anyone who has practiced in the law knows that there are tough days at the office. However, again, I was reasonably fortunate, only having a handful of truly difficult days. The law is a unique and stimulating profession. It demands the best of those who are in it. A free and democratic society must have at its core the rule of law. The lawyers must put their cases forward on each side to the very best of their ability. It is an adversarial system, which by its very definition means it is in conflict or opposition. However, it is then essential for those lawyers, particularly those at the bar, to have that professional cohesion, that collegiality, and it is in that way, which means it is unique. You may be arguing against a colleague in the morning and presenting a CPD with that same person in the afternoon. A person is a product of their experiences, and as we have heard today, I have been very fortunate indeed in my experiences. Finally, there is one aspect of being a judge I am very much looking forward to, and that is everyone laughing at my jokes. I will now finally be funny. I was discussing this with my son, who quickly reminded me, "No, Mum, you are not funny, and you will not be any funnier than you have ever been." Yes, lawyers may laugh at your attempts at humour, but that does not make you funny. I think that only leaves me to say, I still have my pen, and thank you all for coming. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Wheatley. Court officer, please adjourn.
All stand. The full court, the Federal Court of Australia, now stands adjourned.